What's up, guys? How's everybody doing this morning? Man, it's good to see you guys. Can we make some noise for our band? Wasn't our band amazing today? Man, well, I'm so glad that you guys are hanging out with us today. There is no place I would rather be than right here in the basement on a Sunday morning. And so I'm so glad you guys are here today. If we haven't met before, my name is Cotter, and I am the Next Steps pastor here. And I also want to give a huge shout out to everybody that is watching online this morning. So can we make some noise for everybody joining us online? So we're so glad that you guys are a part of our family, whether you are here in the building or watching online. And every Sunday here is amazing, but last Sunday was special, wasn't it? How many of you guys were here last week for baptism party? That was an absolutely insane service. That was such an awesome day, and so many people going public for Jesus through baptism. It was the first day of faith for some. It was the first day going public in faith for others. And for me, I know it was just like a reminder of when I had my baptism, a reminder of when I first went public for Jesus. And so today, our message is all about continuing on building on that foundation that we set last Sunday. Baptism is such a huge moment. It's a life-changing decision. It's an action that shows our commitment to Jesus alone. And that's this crucial point in our lives as we start to live for Jesus. So over the next couple weeks, we're going to talk about what's next. What is next after such a huge moment? What's next after we place our faith in Jesus? And what's next after we go public for Jesus? How can we keep that momentum going? How can we build on that moment? And so that's what we're going to be looking at for the next couple of weeks in this series. And I'm really excited about this, because when we have these big moments in life, it's so important to anchor in and just build a really good foundation that goes beyond that one huge moment. To build a foundation that translates into a lifetime of following Jesus and prioritizing Him above everything else. And so last week I had a really cool afternoon. I got to go see my nephew Rowan playing soccer with his middle school soccer team, and it was neat because he was actually playing against the school that I went to, and so he was playing on the same field that I played on when I played soccer back in high school, and it was cool seeing him out there. It made me feel really, really old. Really old. Those kids look young, man. Younger than they did a few years ago. So that was just super cool to see him. But I loved playing sports in high school. How many of you guys played sports when you were in school? Sports are awesome. And look, whether you played sports or whether you were just a fan of a team, this might not apply if you're a Cowboys fan, but if you played sports or you're a fan of a team, the goal at the start of every season is to win a championship, right? That is your goal. You want to be the best team out of anybody else. You want everyone to know that you're the best. You want a trophy that tells them, look, we are the best team out of anyone. And so that's the goal at the start of every single season. And so my freshman year of high school, I was on the basketball team. And that year, our coaches were winning's great, but our coaches were a little too interested in being the best team and in winning the championship. We had this guy on our team named Greg, and Greg was awesome. He was being recruited by some colleges, and so everybody in our school was just way too into our high school basketball team, taking it way too seriously. We all had matching sneakers that cost a lot more than the sneakers I would usually buy from JCPenney, and so everybody's just really into basketball, and so the year started out, and we had our tryouts, and everything was normal, and usually what would happen at the start of the year is the guys' team would practice from 6 to 8 p.m. So we had the last slot of the day. It was great. We had a few hours after school to get our homework done, and then we had the gym all to ourselves. Well, at the start of this year, there was this musical play thing happening at our school, and so they just did a full gym takeover from the time school ended until the end of the night for 2 weeks. And so in my mind, I was this is awesome. We don't have to start the season now. We can just take 2 weeks off. I can play Call of Duty after school. I can just hang out, maybe have a life outside of school for a little bit. And that's not what our coaches thought. Our coaches were really into winning that year, and so they tried to come up with any idea they could to get us to practice. And so their idea of fun would be to have us practice at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like before the sun comes up, hours before the sun comes up, 2 hours before I would normally even wake up to go to school. And so that's what we did. We would wake up at 5 a.m. and we would practice, and it would be awful, and we would just run and go through the whole rest of the school day sweaty and miserable and tired. And I was not a big fan of those practices, and I do not remember much from my freshman year of high school. I don't remember algebra. I don't remember chemistry or biology or whatever they had us taking. But I remember those 5 a.m. practices. They were so brutal, and I was not a fan. I would have been happy to take some time off, but our coaches, they had this goal. They wanted us to be the best team, and so they were happy to make us miserable, and just so they could get to that goal. And ultimately, all that work paid off. We won the championship. I was the MVP of sitting on the bench. I did not really play much that year. I was not very good. So I sat on the bench, and everybody else won, and I cheered them on, and I gave them water when they came back after they were tired. We had a goal that year, though, and then we set out. Our coaches were all about doing whatever they could to get there. And so today we're talking about our goal in faith. And our goal in faith is to grow in our relationship and in our love for Jesus. That's our ultimate goal as Jesus followers. So we're going to be reading from the book of Philippians this morning. And we're going to start with chapter 1. We can toss this on the screen. This is Philippians 1, starting in verse 9. And so it says, "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ, to the glory and praise of God." And so these verses, they come at the opening of Paul's letter to the Philippian church. And Paul's sharing with them about how much they mean to him, and then he shares about what he is praying for them. And these are the things that he hopes to see in their lives, which are the same things that we should hope to see in our own lives. And when we talk about our goal, what we're aiming for in our lives as Jesus followers, these verses, they paint such a good picture of that. And so we'll go to the next slide. We'll just zoom in on verse 9 for a little bit. It says, "And this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight." And so Paul is praying that their love for Jesus will increase. Their foundation, the foundation of our faith in Jesus, is our love for him. That's where it all starts. That's the core of our relationship. It's all about love. And here we see the importance of strengthening that love that we have for Jesus. Our faith is about God's love for us. It's about our love for him. It's about God being our creator, him being so intentional with how he created us, unique and special. It's about God sending his son to take the punishment for our sins so that we won't have to. It's about God being selfless, God being patient, God being invested in us. And then it's about us seeing all of these things that God has done for us and how much he cares about us, and then us choosing to make him the priority in our lives. And having a relationship with Jesus, it's about loving him more and more as we start to understand more of how much he loves us and all of the things that he's done for us. And so we begin our relationship with Jesus on the basis of love, and the goal is for that love to continue to grow. Now, speaking of love, my wife Emily and I, we've been married for 7 years now. I think I've got that number right. We've got a picture of us, though, that we can toss up on the screen. And so this is us. Now, what's special about this photo is it was taken before we had a kid. And so you might not notice this, but there's like an extra sparkle in our eyes. When you look at this, this was taken in like the middle of November a few years ago. And so I was probably freezing cold. I had just gotten done surfing. That's why I looked like a seal or a weirdo. But you can just tell, right? Like there's just something in our eyes that says, I slept as long as I wanted to last night. And when I have free time, I do whatever I want. And I don't really have a whole lot of responsibilities around the house. And I look at myself, like photos of myself now, and I think, man, like what happened? Like, have you ever slept before? Like, did somebody step on your toe before they took that picture? And look, Emily and I, we didn't, when she was pregnant with our son Taj, we didn't have any baby classes, parenting classes, whatever. I don't even know what they're called. It was the middle of COVID, so they didn't do that. They just said YouTube stuff. So I did. I YouTubed how to change a diaper. And so I don't know, but there's got to be I would think there's got to be a class in there somewhere in those baby classes about hey, you're about to lose all your freedom and your sleep and everything. So I don't know if they don't, and your money. Yeah, I don't know if they teach that. They should. Now, don't get me wrong. Being a parent is awesome, literally the best, but it's hard work. And over the last year or so that we've been parents, the thing that has stuck out to me the most is I've just grown to appreciate how much my parents did for me growing up. You know, when you're a kid, you don't think about what your parents do all day. You just sleep in, you eat the food that's placed on the table in front of you, you go to school, then you come home, you play outside, you play video games, you do whatever you want to do. And I just never really thought growing up about how exhausted my parents were from working all day long and how tiring it was to then come home, make meals for me and my siblings and keep up with the laundry and keep the house cleaned. But after living it for the last year and knowing how tiring it is when Emily and I both come home from a long day of work and just trying to keep up with things, it's intense, right? It takes energy I never knew I had, and we only have one kid. For now, in February that's going to change. Yep. Thank you. But look, as I've seen all of this energy that it takes to be a parent, it's helped me understand so much more of what my parents sacrificed for me growing up. Working all day, taking us to whatever sports practice we had, paying all the bills and doing the laundry and the dishes and the groceries and just so many other things. Now that all of that's more real to me, it's given me more an appreciation of my parents, and it's increased my love for my parents and getting a glimpse of what they went through, what they were willing to do for me and my siblings. That has really strengthened my love for them. And that's what Paul wants us to see with Jesus. He wants all of us to see all of the things that God has done for us, the grace and patience that he has with us, the love he's shown us, because as we see all of those things, it's going to grow our love for God. And so the more we understand what God has done for us, the more we'll see his love for us, and the more that will increase the love that we have for him. And so what I want to look at today is 3 ways that we can grow our love for Jesus, and 3 things we can do. So the first thing is that we can read the Bible. When we read the Bible, we learn about God. We learn about God's character. We learn about his love for us. We learn about all of the sacrifices that he has made for us. Spending each time reading the Bible, it helps us to center on who God is, how valuable we are to him. It's a daily reminder of what our life is really about and what we are living for. And so as we focus on growing our love for Jesus, it's important to make reading the Bible a priority in our lives. And look, we believe that the Bible is the ultimate authority. The Bible has the final say on all things. It's what defines what we believe and what our priorities are. It is God's words to us. And it's how we know who he is. It's how we know how much he cares for us. It's how we know how much he loves us. And so when we place our faith in Jesus, one of the first things we should do is start reading the Bible regularly. And look, that looks different for everyone. You might be someone who just wants to read 10 chapters of the Bible or sit down for a couple hours and read. You might just pop open the Bible app and read 1 verse during the day. And look, reading the Bible is not homework. Reading the Bible is not something that we do to gain favor with God. Reading the Bible is how we learn about him. It's how we grow our love for him. So there's no set amount that we need to read each day. Reading the Bible is something that should bring us joy. It should be something that's refreshing, not another burden. If reading 10 chapters a day is your thing, that's awesome. Go for it. If reading a couple verses a day is your thing and that's how you read the Bible, that's awesome. Do it that way. It's not about how much we read. It's just about making a commitment each day to be reading the Bible so that our love will continue to grow more and more for Jesus. Because the more we learn about him, the more we're going to appreciate him. And so the first way that we grow our love and our knowledge and depth of insight is by reading the Bible. And the second way that we grow our love for God is through prayer. And look, prayer is just a fancy word that means talking to God. Prayer is about communicating with God about anything and everything. It's about the good things in our lives, talking to him about those things. It's about talking to him about the difficult things. It's about turning to God for help when we're struggling and thanking him when things are going well. The Bible says that we should pray continually. So prayer is just something that we do throughout our day. It's not something we only do before meals or something we only do at church. It's something we can do when we're in the grocery store, when we're driving the car, when we're at work. It's making conversation with God a normal part of everything that we do. And the Bible tells us that God hears our prayers. And I think this is really important because praying is not wishful thinking. Praying is not just speaking to the air. Praying is not just talking to ourselves. Prayer is real conversation with God. And there's a few things we can focus on when we're praying. The first thing we can focus on is thanksgiving. That's thanking God for all of the things that are happening in our lives. It's thanking him for little insignificant things like a good parking spot. It's thanking him for big things like a promotion at work. The Bible teaches us that God is in control of all things, and so it's important to thank him for our blessings and to thank him for our family and our friends, to thank him for our job and our home and our health. We thank God for things that are big and small because everything that we have that is good is a gift from God. And making a habit of doing this, of being intentional about praising God and thanking him for the good things in life, that's going to help our love for Jesus to grow because it's going to be a constant reminder to us that all of the good things in our life come from God. And he's the reason we have those things. So when we're praising God for our blessings, we're also reminding ourselves that all of those blessings come from him. So thankfulness in our prayer is huge. Another thing we can focus on in our prayer is praying for other people. And this is about praying for the people that are around us and all the different things that they're going through. It's about seeing someone else's needs and asking God to be there to meet their needs and to take care of them. And this is so important because it's a way that our love for other people will grow. And when we're constantly thinking about the struggles and the needs of people around us, it's going to help us to care more about them. It's going to help us to trust more in God to take care of them. And the third thing we pray for is our own lives. We pray for the things that are happening with us. We ask God to meet the needs that we have. We share with him about our struggles. We share with him about things that we need help in. And we do this for all kinds of things in life. Asking God to meet our needs, it grows our love for him because it's relying on him to take care of us. It's trusting him to provide for us in ways that we can't. And so we grow in our love for God by reading the Bible. We grow in our love for God through prayer. And the third way that we grow in our love for God is by being in community with other Jesus followers, just being around other people that love Jesus. And the best ways to do that are one, which you guys are already doing, which is coming to church. That's a huge way that we grow in our love through community. And the other way is through being a part of a small group. And look, there's so much value in being around other people who love Jesus and who are focused on him. It's an encouragement to us. It's also accountability for us. It keeps us focused on what our goals are. It keeps us focused on what our priorities should be. And small groups are great for this because small groups are a group of people that know you, a group of people that are there for you, that are going to support you. It's having a group of people that's going to read the Bible for you and that's going to pray with you and encourage you and challenge you. Small groups are so important as we seek to grow in our relationship with Jesus. And coming to church is crucial as well. At church, we are connecting with other people that are Jesus followers. And we also have time to worship Jesus and learn more about him. And look, something you guys might not know about me is that during the week, I double as the church custodian. So I have like two roles, and we actually have a picture of me that we can toss up on the screen. That's from the church website. No, I'm just kidding. I wish I had the Tony Danza skills. I don't have those skills. The only thing I do have that he doesn't is a cordless vacuum. He's got a cord on his vacuum. That's lame. So, we got the cordless vacuum. But one of the cool things about this job, every job comes with perks, right? And so one of the perks about being able to clean the church is that you find some really awesome stuff. So like this summer, I found some cool stuff. I found a wallet over here a few weeks ago. I found a credit card. I've returned both of those, by the way, in full. And so I found those things. I found reading glasses, sunglasses. I found about 40,000 coffee tumblers and water cups in here. If you need any, we're going to rent a storage container out back to put them all in. There's one thing that I found this summer, which trumps like all of them. It is the best thing that I have ever found. Found it right over here in one of the chairs one Sunday, and it was someone's message notes. We can put this up on the screen. So someone's message notes. Okay, so this is from a sermon that I did earlier this summer, like at the beginning of July or June, and so what you're looking at right here is an absolute masterpiece. And if you don't mind, I just kind of want to walk you through it a little bit. There's some amazing things. Okay. So first, up at the top here, we got Jonah in the whale, which is amazing. That's what I talked about that Sunday. So they were totally paying attention, and they've got amazing drawing skills. Like I can't draw that. I'm a stick figure only person. And so they got Jonah up here in like the big fish, the whale thing. And then he's calling out for help, which is cool. And then over here, you got this text that says God's way. Seems good, right? And then if you look down here, there's it says bat net. There's like a bat in a net. And that's right on with my message. Like I shared a story about how my brother and I caught a bat with a crab net in my grandmother's house. So like perfect. And that drawing of a bat's amazing. Then right to the left of that, it says thankful with a heart. That seems good, right? And so from here, things kind of go off the rails a little bit. And I think I might need to listen back to that message. I don't know if I got off track or if they were taking some creative liberties with my message that day. But this is kind of the sci-fi edition of my message. And so if you look over here, we got some text that says, "Oh, look, blubber, yay." I have no idea what that is. And then over here on the other side of thankful, we see a cow being abducted by an alien spaceship. I don't know what to say about that. And then, okay, so then above the cow being abducted, we got this guy with a little taser gun. And so I'm starting to piece it together. I think this is Star Trek. I think this is like the little taser gun, and so they're setting their taser to stun, and he's coming down to help take out the cows too. And then if you look over here in the corner, we got this car, and it says, "Keep moving forward." I don't think I said keep moving forward in that sermon. I might have. I don't think I did. But so what I'm thinking is happening is this car is the owner of the cow. And so he's trying to get over and rescue the cow before the spaceship gets the cow. But then you got 3 other spaceships in the top left corner. And they're coming as backup since that car's coming over there. Then there's a tree. I don't know what that is, but that's amazing, isn't it? Like, whoever did that, I have no clue who did this. I'm sorry for sharing it if you're embarrassed, but this is the greatest thing I have ever seen in my whole life. This is so cool. I took a picture of this immediately, and then I also kept the original, because if I ever find out who did it, I might want to get it autographed, because that's incredible. But like the coolest thing about this photo, it's not the aliens. Aliens are cool, but the coolest thing is not the aliens. The best thing is that this person was taking notes during the message. Isn't that so cool? Like, I think we should all be taking notes every single message. It's a great way to remember what we've learned. It's something that if we don't leave it in the seat, we can take with us during the week and remember the message throughout the week. And look, if you want to add aliens to your notes, that is so cool. Like, I'm down with that. Like, whatever helps you remember what the Bible says. And look, as we study the Bible, as we pray, as we join in community with other Jesus followers, we're going to grow in our love for Jesus. And so let's hop back into these verses from Philippians. We'll toss them back up on the screen. This says, in this prayer, this is my prayer, that your love may abound more and more in knowledge and depth of insight, so that you may be able to discern what is best and may be pure and blameless for the day of Christ, filled with the fruit of righteousness that comes through Jesus Christ to the glory and praise of God. And so the ultimate goal of our love increasing in Jesus is that it will increase, and then the result of that is that our lives will begin to look more like Jesus' life. And so verse 10 says that so that we may be able to discern what is best, and so that we may be pure and blameless. So we'll know what's best for us, and then we'll choose those things that are better for us because our love for God is increased. And then verse 11 says that our lives will be filled with the fruit of righteousness, which really just means evidence of righteousness in our lives. And so as we see what is good for us, and as we choose those things, our lives will have more evidence that we are living for Jesus. And so as we increase our love for Jesus, our actions and our choices, they're going to start to look less like our lives did before we started following Jesus, and they're going to look more and more like Jesus' life. Before we followed Jesus, we all made decisions that were not the best, right? But when we come to Jesus, that changes. And before Jesus, whether it's how we treated people, or the words that we used to talk to people, or the things that we watched and listened to, the values that we had, before Jesus, our lives were full of sin. They're full of all kinds of mess, all the stuff that we thought was good for us, all the stuff that we thought was the best way we should live. But when we start to live for Jesus, all of that changes. And as we increase our love for him, our actions change. We don't continue to live the same way we lived before we placed our trust in Jesus. The way we treat other people changes. The words that we use change. The things that we allow into our lives to influence us changes, whether that's the people we're around or the content that we're allowing into our lives. Everything about our lives change when our love for Jesus increases. We don't stay the same. We don't do the same things. And that happens because our values change. We're living for Jesus now. We're not living for ourselves anymore. And so the things that used to seem right to us, the things that felt good to us, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. As our love for Jesus grows, what matters to us is what matters to Jesus. So as we see our lives change, our values, our priorities, and our decisions will also change. And so check these verses out with me. This is 1 Peter 1, starting in verse 15. It says, "But just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. For it is written, 'Be holy, because I am holy.'" So we should be holy in our lives because Jesus is holy. When we first come to Jesus, our lives don't look like what we see in the Bible, right? They don't look like that at all. And that's okay. We don't need to have everything together before we start living for Jesus. Our relationship with Jesus, it's all about what he has done for us. It's about him loving us and saving us even though we aren't holy, even though we don't have everything in our lives together. It's not about us living so well that God chooses to love us because we've earned it. That's not what it's about, because we haven't earned it at all. He chooses to love us even though we've made mistakes. And so we come to Jesus with all of our mess, with all of our baggage. And what God desires for us is that over time, as our love for him grows, we will love holiness the way that he loves holiness. And he wants us to value what he values. Now, Emily and I's son, he's just turned 1. He was born in August, and so when he was first born, it got cold really fast. It was August. It was 1,000,000 degrees when he first was born, but we didn't have any energy because we weren't sleeping. But by the time we started sleeping again, and he was old enough to go outside, it was freezing cold. It was wintertime. We couldn't go outside. And so I just spent all winter dreaming about this summer, because that would be our first time to get him to the beach. And look, Emily and I's favorite place in the entire world is the beach. And so all winter, I was just hyping up this summer in my mind. This is it. He's going to be a professional surfer starting this summer. And so that's all I thought about. So I got a surfboard that was longer that he could ride on with me. We got him a baby life jacket, and it looks hilarious on him, like absolutely hilarious. It's lifeguard certified or whatever, but it just makes him look hilarious. We also put him in swim lessons so that he'd be ready for this summer. And we did like all of these things. We tried to think through everything we would need so that he would be able to like love the beach as much as we love the beach. And now there were some mixed results with this summer. There were some good times. There were some times we got him like, I didn't get him on the surfboard. I didn't even try that. But we got him on the bodyboard in like some shallow water. We got a picture of this we can toss up. Look at him. He looks hilarious in that bathing suit. But, he loves that. Like in the shallow water, he'd just sit there on the board and kind of like hit the water and then he'd kind of crawl off of it and he'd get kind of bored. And I put the board back up on the beach and then he'd start crawling over to it because he wanted to be on it more. So like, that was cool. We had some really good like water days. We had some really good days where he'd just crawl around in the sand and have some fun. And then there were some days like last weekend. Last weekend was the worst beach day I've probably ever had. Emily was working last Friday, and so it was just me and him, dad and son day, going to the beach. Failure. And so I packed up like everything that he would need. I literally got everything, and we drove to the beach, through the beach traffic. We got there. I put his sunscreen on, which putting sunscreen on a baby, not fun at all. So we did that though. I got his sunscreen on. I got his like little like swimsuit thing on. And we walk out to the beach. We find a little spot that's not crowded. He lasted like less than 5 minutes before having a complete meltdown and just being like done 100% with the beach. And so all of that worked for like 5 minutes of beach time. And so we're a work in progress in there. Like we've got some good days. We got some bad days. We got some days where we go to the beach and we leave after 5 minutes and get tacos. But, we're working on it. And the thing is, it's a place that we love so much. And we want it to be a place that he loves as well. And that's how we should think about these verses about holiness. Sometimes holiness is talked about like God is just up there sitting in this big chair and he's just waiting for us to mess up. And there's like this fear element in how holiness is talked about of like fear is why we need to be holy. And that's not what we see in the Bible. What we see in the Bible is that God loves us. And he wants us to value holiness because it's something that's important to him. And when we love him, that's something we also will value. It's something that will be important to us. Look, when Emily and I first got married, she started encouraging me to eat healthier. Like that was something she really, really valued. I did not care about it at all. Like at all. I certainly don't think healthy food tastes good. Like I will go to Arby's and I will eat Pop-Tarts any day over eating a kale salad because it's just better, right? But it was a big deal to Emily, and I care about Emily, and so I value eating healthier now because I value her. It's important to her, so it's important to me because I care about her. And look, as our love for Jesus grows, more and more we will value what is important to him. So reading the Bible, praying, coming to church, valuing holiness, these are priorities for us when we love Jesus. And so we think about what's next after just an incredible baptism Sunday last week. The first place to start is growing our love for Jesus. Spending a few minutes each day reading the Bible. Starting to pray more throughout each day. Coming to church regularly and joining a small group. Making choices each day that look more and more like Jesus and less like our old lives. Growing our love for Jesus is about making him our priority. And when we spend time reading the Bible, when we spend time praying, when we make it a priority to come to church, our love for Jesus is going to increase more and more. And we're going to start to see that affect every area of our lives. Let's pray. God, I thank you so much for this morning. I thank you for everyone that is here. I thank you for the amazing Sunday that we had last week with baptism. And I thank you for every person that went public for you. And I thank you for that journey that they're on with you in faith. And God, I pray that as we move into this week, I pray, Lord, that we would all seek to grow more in our love for you. I pray that we would make reading the Bible a priority and praying a priority because we want our love for you to increase. We want to know you more and appreciate more of how much you care about us and everything you've done for us. I thank you so much for today, God, and I pray that you will bless our week, and I pray that you will bless all of our love for you as we seek to grow more in that. I pray this in your name. Amen.